Sorry, I got carried away with this song. It's so good. Oh man. Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion, and today is Friday. Friday the 13th at that. And on Fridays on this channel, even Friday the 13th, it's Community Day. So, sorry, just got back downstairs and I'm out of breath. We are gonna just go ahead and jump into my desktop. I will be probably still working on work stuff, but I will pay attention to chat, to stream. There are a bunch of other streams going on, great streams at that, people that I love to lurk on, so totally understand if we don't get that much activity today. But if we do, amazing for that too. I have so much to do, so many things that just popped up over the past week. We got a new employee at the Arsenal, and he is a GIS specialist, which is awesome. It's so nice having a GIS specialist that is interested in updating the systems in a way where maybe our map will be connected to the database and our users will be able to make changes to well information, and that'll show up immediately on the map itself. For example, when one well is replaced by another well, it'd be super cool. Hello, TBD. Yes, the return of 111111. 1 lion, 11D lion, 11 lions, 2 lion, 3 lion, 111. Are you missing some noise gates? Or you changed your mic? Oh, you are absolutely right. I turned off crisp noise cancellation. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Should be good now. What did I turn off noise cancellation for? I was trying to have my phone speak to my computer because I was, for those of you that have Android phones, you may have noticed that Gemini had an update, and you're using Gemini. Gemini had an update where you can have a conversation with it. And so for one of the issues that I was running into, which by the way is so weird, I'm interested in knowing if anyone has had similar things happen, but an issue that I was running into, I'm like, I'm going to try talking out with Gemini some ideas on what the issue might have been. And as I'm talking out code related things, I'm like, you know, this would be a lot easier if you could also provide text. And it was like, I know it's difficult to do text in a voice chat, but we can transfer to text if that's what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. It's like, great. So the conversation will be transferred over to text chat, to Gemini chat, and you should be able to have access to it there. And I'm like, awesome. And then I went to it and I'm like, it's not there. What? C#. Interesting. Continuing DT search conversation. Yeah, so I still don't see it in here, but what I tried to do is I was like, okay, so I can't actually see it in Gemini chat when I go to gemini.com or .google.com. So can you summarize our conversation? And then I turned the microphone on for Gemini, and I was trying to have it talk through my microphone so that it would pick up there. It didn't work, but that's fine. I wasn't really looking for it to actually help, but long story short, when I pushed the back button on my phone, the chat transcript was there, and I could continue the conversation and chat directly through my phone. It's like, I thought you said it was going to be, Oh no, and also that's what happened. I think I was on a different email address too. So the history is there, and it is. Yeah, so the history was there. I was just in the wrong chat or wrong Gmail account. Anyway, fantastic. That was my story for the day. Actually, I have a whole bunch of stories. So DDMS was being crazy, and we got the new employee. So I'm talking with him about getting the ArcGIS stuff set up for him. Fantastic story. I like stories. Hey, the new employee said that. I like stories. President not sure. Are you the new employee? That would be awesome. Are you a GIS specialist? But anyway, I'm really, really excited to work with him. Nope, not me, unless he forgot to tell me. Darn. I'm just really looking forward to working with him. It sounds like we're going to be making the needed changes to ArcGIS, get it working in Army Water. And if you don't remember from past videos, or you've never seen this before, one of the maps that we have, or not one of the maps, one of the apps that we have uses an ArcGIS map to present our site and all of the wells at our site. So this map here, the way that it has been managed in the past is we have a local installation of Arc Desktop, which is going out of support soon. They actually stopped upgrading the version numbers. And they're now switching to ArcGIS Pro. So we have a local installation of Arc Desktop. And when I say local, I mean local to the server that Arc Map server is running on. So the user at the time that was updating the maps would log into our server, our EC2 instance, using remote desktop, just to update the map. And then when we publish to a file, and then the ArcGIS API, I forget what they call it. It's like a companion type of app. But anyway, it's just an API that got installed into our server, and it's a web adapter. It's the thing that will provide the map services to an application. So the new employee is used to working with ArcGIS through ArcGIS Online or Arc Portal, whichever one is the new one. No! I like stories too, says TBD Gamer. Unfortunately, I work in horror stories. No. President Not Sure says, nope, I'm a mobile guy with a lot of Bluetooth thrown in. I don't know what BLE. Binary language editors. So you work directly with binary? No, I'm kidding. There was a GIS mapping flight that ran out of gas a day or two ago and force landed on a highway in Texas. A GIS mapping flight. Like it was a plane that was gathering data for GIS for mapping purposes? Or what do you mean by GIS mapping flight? Ooh, so yeah, we can definitely keep talking about that. They flew back and forth gathering data for 5 hours, and that was too long for its blue supply. Is it auto-correcting you? That seems like two different ideas suddenly. Fuel, okay. I'll say that I misread it. You're okay. You are amazing, President. Not sure. Thank you so much for being here. So let me just talk a little bit about what happened during the week. Very little happened in this import utility, but I did get some stuff done. The DDMS issue was twofold, or at least threefold, as I mentioned in Discord. I was just thinking about that story miniseries, The Stand, which is about super flu, says President, not sure. Oh, are you crossing streams in your head? So DDMS is our document management system. It's the one that our document tracking center employee, singular, goes into to enter any documents that we generate, any official documents that we generate. Those could be documents generated for court cases. Those could be EPA compliance documents. They could be regular reporting stuff. City, what's our city one called? Colorado. Whatever the acronym is for our Colorado environmental organization, which just kind of spells out CEO. Yeah, it's crossing streams in my head. So, oh my goodness, wow. I mean, Monday, Monday started off not great. First thing that I did was I opened app settings, that file that you check into your repo that has no secrets and nothing special about it. And in that file, I was going to add a database connection for RTrack. Yeah, and I just interrupted myself, didn't I? I'll say this part first. So Monday started off with me pretty much showing my database username and password. So I went through and I changed the RMA accounts that used that password and had to come up with a new one. So that's going to be fun to try to remember that that's what I need to use to log in. Okay, so DDMS is the application where we store documents. Part of the process is that the document tracking center person uploads PDF files that have already been OCR'd, and then those PDF files get indexed or added to the index using an application called DT Search running on a server. And that then becomes searchable in the DDMS application, the content of the document plus the database record. And so they told me on Wednesday, they told me on one of those days, either Tuesday or Wednesday, must have been Wednesday. They told me on Wednesday morning that they were having issues with DDMS. It was suddenly not working, suddenly not able to create new documents, and all search requests were returning no results, which didn't make sense because it was working the day before. And what I had done the day before, which I didn't correlate with the issue, I was like, okay, DDMS is .NET 6 Blazor WebAssembly application. I thought that maybe an update ran for DT search or for IIS, but I didn't do any updates or anything like that. And yeah, there's just no reason that it should have broken suddenly. I have Windows updates on all of the servers. Is this a new project? This is the data import utility that I've been working on since I started streaming work product again. Hi, Scott. Or is the story that I'm talking about a new app? DDMS we've had since before I came here, and it was a desktop VB6 app, and I converted it to Blazor. It was the first application I had ever done in Blazor. So there's a lot wrong with it. A lot I wouldn't have done this way. Okay, so yeah, so this is the data import utility. So just to burn through the DDMS story real quick. So this search functionality here, when you hit search, return no results. The document upload for, not even upload, the create new document records failed. And there was nothing on the server that had changed to my knowledge. The only thing that I did do on Tuesday was created the Active Directory account on our servers for the new employee so that he could log into the server that I was talking about that has Arc Desktop on it, so that I could show him Arc Desktop and he would have a starting place to go from that to moving it to ArcGIS Online or whatever it's going to be. We were also setting up licensing information, trying to figure out how to get licenses for ArcGIS Pro and finding out if we were supposed to have that, set up a whole bunch of other accesses and stuff, got him logged into the server, showed him around, showed him where files were, and then DDMS broke the next day after that. So I'm looking at everything. I didn't associate those two things together, but as it turned out, the end result of this was that the file share that the documents exist in, so for example, if there is an existing PDF, then that's stored on a drive that this application has access to, and it accesses it using a file share with the correct permissions and stuff. And for anyone that has worked on servers, hello Marcus Voice Coder, anyone that has worked on servers and file shares, you would know that if you're creating a file share, the file share itself gets permissions, and then the is it wrong that I'm listening to Christmas metal playlist on Amazon Music? Not at all. You enjoy the type of music you enjoy. So you have the file share with its permissions, and then the actual folder itself that the file share is pointing to would have permissions that the application would need in order to be able to read / write / whatever you're doing, execute. That said, the file share disappeared from the server, and 2, the permissions for the folder that the file share was pointing to, so I re-added it and creating new records worked. But the folder that the file share was pointing to had security settings where the new employee's Active Directory account was the owner of that folder. What? And of course, the employee says that they didn't do anything of the sort. They didn't try to take ownership of the folder or purposefully change the permissions of the folder. And I definitely believe them. But suddenly, the folder belonged to a new employee. Not only that, but the permissions for the application were removed from that folder. Ooh. And here comes Peter. And oh, I need to join the room. All right, I'll be pulling you into the room in 3, 2, 1. Am I done with my story?
Almost. Are you done with your story? I was curious. So it turns out file permissions, but for unknown reasons.
Turned you way down.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I got you.
Test. Words.
You're good.
Words are words.
You're good.
And words are tests.
Yeah, so no, I was mostly through the story, but file share, permissions, fixed that. No idea how it happened. And then the other issue was, while I was trying to research it, I was trying to get logging to work. Serilog wasn't logging to Windows Event, so I had to do a whole bunch of weird stuff for that. And then I ultimately ended up upgrading the DDMS application to .NET 8 and republishing that. Why not 9? You were about to ask?
Oh, I'm just saying, why not? Great.
Oh, yeah. And it was an easy upgrade, so I hope we get to go through more of the application upgrades on stream. How come you were using a password for DB login instead of Active Directory? Because, the published application itself running on the server is using a service account in Active Directory. When I'm doing debug and I'm connecting to the test database, I'm using username and password on my dev machine.
Right.
So I hope that answered. But yeah,
Either way, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, no matter what I do. So the point is,
your answer was.
I have no idea how any of my permissions for the folders updated to a brand new Active Directory account that I had just created. And yeah, it was just super odd. And then the file share disappearing. I have no idea how the file share got deleted.
I mean, the fact that you can move an entire folder by like dragging the mouse, like there's a lot of things that could have happened. And it's old Windows. Honestly, this kind of issue is why Windows as a server platform will not be the way going forward.
Yeah. I think we're almost at a point where I could have our web applications on a Linux server now that .NET Core, now that they're all .NET Core applications, or there's still one more that's .NET Framework. I'm running on IIS.
Well, congrats, you've upgraded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mostly, probably the thing keeping you from upgrading before was like the testing, but if it was like already in a bad state. Oh, or not. Oh.
No, the thing keeping me from upgrading before was the very first thing was convert all of these JSP applications to .NET. I was familiar with .NET Framework MVC projects, converted them all to MVC. Do it fast, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, now that they're all converted, now that we're in the cloud, I'm going to start learning Blazor. So then I did DDMS and Blazor and loved it. I did it wrong, but I loved it. And I kept working on it from there. And so now it's like, hey, now that the apps are in a maintainable state, can you add this functionality? Can you fix this issue that has existed since the beginning of time?
Nice. By the way, Marcus says MP3 files on a company Mac. That's pretty random, but I like it. And then he talks about how you can fat finger stuff without using fingers. You can, I call it voice dragging, Marcus. I've just invented dragging. It. Spread it and use. Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh. Did you hear about... Well, I guess there's a few things. There's the Gemini update that just recently happened, where you can have a natural conversation with Gemini about stuff and things.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, I think during .NET Conf, they were talking about some real-time voice assistant that does operations for you.
Good. That part I want. I don't want to pretend I'm having a tea party with an AI. You know, Mr. Chumness. Or Tumness. It was Tumness. Yes. Anyway, but I would love her voice. Marcus, you're here. You report back to us via voice whenever you have explored these potentially new things. Marcus has been doing it with ChatGPT. They kept asking questions. I was on the line for 18 minutes. That sounds awful. Well, that's hellacious. The thing, Marcus, if it's a voice phone system, you either say agent a million times if they're prompting that way, or you just tap the 0 key over and over and over, and they will eventually transfer you, because inevitably their system doesn't have your option there anyway. So a lot of zeros pressed on my dial anyway, my phone, and there's no dial. And you don't press on the dial. You know,
I mean, technically you could press on the dial. You apply force in a direction away from yourself.
It's like the new middle mouse button. I don't know when that appeared, but it was like years after it appeared that I finally figured out it was a real thing. Where you press down on the dial in the middle of your mouse. And it is another button. I think it's mouse 3.
It is. And if you hold it, and when you let go, it stops doing the auto scroll. If you push it, it locks auto scroll. You can configure it to be something else. My mouse has 5 buttons.
Yeah, on the left, which I never. I like mine has a tilt left button.
Oh yeah.
If you press the middle mouse button to the left or right.
8 buttons. I forgot about those.
Yeah. At some point, I'm just a simple man who can't keep all this in my head. So it is what it is.
I do use it
so
often.
That's good. Though. You got your problem solved.
Yeah, I mean, I also introduced another problem because of upgrading to .NET 8. I upgraded Entity Framework, so suddenly they weren't able to upload documents, and it's because one of the things that the query does when you upload is queries for, are there any matching documents that already exist in this list of documents? And since Entity Framework 7, since .NET Core 7, I think it was, they changed it to where it uses OpenJSON for the queries, and our database isn't modern enough to support OpenJSON. So I needed to do the compatibility level thing.
Okay. Yeah. So you've actually used SQL Server compatibility settings.
Yeah, it is.
That's very reasonable.
Text factory.
Also a good example of like what Entity Framework is doing for you under the hood. Using a feature you didn't know existed until it was breaking you in production.
And it's like I'm really, really wanting to upgrade our server now, since it has since SQL added JSON column and can now query instead of wherein, it uses the OpenJSON.
Oh, I don't congrats on troubleshooting.
Yeah, it was crazy. It felt like a waste of a day.
Yeah, probably more than a day, but
2 days. Right?
Yeah, so don't worry, I do it too. I'm like, it was a good hour, and it was like half the day productively gone.
That's the downside of these abstractions.
Yeah, that is the downside, but that's a good anecdote as to what Entity Framework's doing for you. You can put that in your war stories chest.
Yeah, definitely. Hello?
And there is no downside to all these abstractions. There's no downsides.
Whatever this is behind me, and I don't know what that is.
A little chair or something?
Oh, no. There's nothing behind me.
It is a screen. It is maybe your Discord. If you're sharing on Discord, that's what that looks like.
Oh.
Sharing your screen on Discord.
Oh, that does look like your orange face. Where is that? Discord overlay. Not you. Discord for camera. Yep. Discord for camera. Weird. That's very weird. Huh. Whatever. So what is going on, Peter? How was your week?
All is well.
It's the gremlins. Absolutely the gremlins. Hey, Bits.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. It is the Gremlins, 8 bits per play. How is everyone? We're in need of topics. Otherwise, we might actually have to watch him code.
Watch me do work. Oil tank being moved here so super loud at the moment. Gotta turn you guys up.
What's an oil tank? Like in a car? You know what I'm saying? Ah, TBD gamers in the...
Pulling you in 3, 2, lag, 1, 0.
Yo.
Hello.
What's up? What's up? President Not Sure says oil heat, heard of it? And the truth is, I'm in Houston, Texas. So we got down to near freezing weather for a solid 4 hours after sunrise. And now it is back to like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is above what you set your air conditioner to.
I've only heard of it because Irish John's story yesterday, or a few times, I guess.
So
I just didn't know that they moved the oil tank itself. Oh yes, Marcus Voice Coder. Why do clients behave like buses and or come all at once after months of no work? And then you're swamped. Very true.
sounds like someone's experiencing a wealth of work that's come to them right now, and a wealth of riches of work, but they were not busy earlier, maybe. Also, welcome TBD. You're totally muted if you're...
Oh, I'm here. I'm just listening.
Cool.
We were like struggling. I was audibly struggling to find a topic, and now there's like 5 things. Go. You're next.
So I'm seeing the talks about the contracts and stuff. I activated my resume on a few more job sites the other day, but all people seem to want is contract work right now.
Is that bad for you?
Yeah, I don't want to do part-time anything. I don't want to do any sort of defined window.
Time limited, you mean?
Yeah. I want full-time work.
Because like I have full-time work as a contractor, as in my schedule is full-time. Well, my schedule is my schedule. I get so many hours on my contract, but it's equivalent to a full-time employee.
Yeah, but these are like six to 12 months maximum. Sort of things, and I don't need that instability. I don't want to go having to hunt for extra work in 6 months' time.
Yeah. So you meant
for sure. But I'm just getting a lot of people just, oh, you want to do this? Like, do you want $80 an hour? Like, no, I don't want to go chasing that sort of work. But
yeah, I like it a lot. Not gonna lie, it's definitely for me. The thing I did with the other company was not for me.
Yeah,
I don't like working for a consulting firm, and yeah, I'd rather be direct contract. I mean, I don't mind being salaried. It's secure, it's safe, but I also like the freedom of contract work.
well, salaried is, secure enough for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having gone through, I think three rounds of layoffs in the company I work in, it's ever encroaching that.
You're a survivor.
We survived, yeah. And that's in a 2-year period as well. To be thankful for that. It's but
yeah. So President Not Sure is pretty much in the same boat as me. 8-Bit said first, before I'm going back a little bit, I'm not sure of any topics. I only been doing audio setup for my small project today and not reading any recent news. And then he said, as someone who just got laid off with his entire team at his contracted job last week, I know the feeling. Yeah, so the stress of not knowing whether a contract is going to be renewed or not, I don't like that part. But like I have been granted a pretty unique opportunity that I'm working with the client that I was working with before as a salaried employee, but now I'm contracted to them. And they like my work. I know how they feel about me. And I know that they would do anything to keep me with them. So it's pretty beneficial that way. With the other company, I don't want to name their name as I'm throwing this thing around. With the other company that I was at, it's like their employee relations was pretty tenuous on the team that I was on, at least. Contractor client, consultant client relations was like, I don't know how that worked. But every single time the contract came up for renewal while I was there was like, oh, we don't know if we're going to get the same number of hours. We don't know if it's even going to get renewed. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's not fun.
Yeah, and they will lay you off at those
Yeah.
places if your contract isn't renewed. They don't like paying you for sitting on the bench. The bench. Also called the beach. I've heard it. Either way, oh, there were a
medical
few.
premiums are crazy.
Oh, it is. Hope all is well, 8-bit. Yeah. So
so since I'm a pass-through entity, taxes are insane to look at. One day I will go to an S corp so that I could pay myself a salary and pay less in taxes, but right now it's a pretty big chunk. It's a really big chunk, actually. It's insane.
I've been lucky to be salaried my entire career. I think I've been lucky. And I do still hold on to the idea of working with a team that I can get along with one day.
You will.
You
Definitely will.
The problem is every year that goes past that I seek that is another year towards, I'm over the 50% of the career mark, right? So I'm on the downward journey now. So it's which is scary to say, but it's the truth. And I don't want to. I think
I'm past 50% and I'm on a upward mark. It's weird. It's going to be like up, and then I just stop.
Well, I think I don't want to be. I've never wanted to become, the developer who sits in the corner and is like, oh, well, I've always done it that way, so I'm never going to change, right? I always want to change. I always want to learn and grow and things like that, and I want to chase opportunities. As we get older, though, people believe that less of us. The more experience we have, people think that we're going to fall out of touch. Or
it also comes with our language usage. So our language does change as we become more experienced developers, regardless of age. I think it just has to do with how confident you are in the approaches that you have taken that have proven to work for you in many situations. And so people may interpret your confidence in an approach as rigidity, and inability to adapt and grow.
Yeah, but I mean, I've experienced my fair share of those people that are like, well, I'm not. This is the way I've done it, and they don't want to flex.
Right.
So
we're both guilty of viewing other people in that situation as rigid or untenable.
Yeah.
Mojo.
Yeah, it's a no, I'm not trying to settle and slow down. I'm not just trying to cruise through the rest of the career by I've got more time on job, therefore I must, I know what I'm doing. Right, you go off and do it, right? But I'm finding myself in the position where if I want to get back into development, it's a hard balance. I say back into development in that I'm not exactly out of development, but I'm not actively developing on a day-to-day right now. I'm just kind of planning and preparing and stuff. And but I want to get back into .NET stuff. But being part of a team.
More than .NET, I think I'm very old, y'all. 44.
Same.
All right, good.
Yeah, we're
both very old. We're all 40 plus. This is strictly 40 plus stream.
I'm 42, but 44 is a good number. Or 40, 43, 40. I don't know how to do math. Anyway, go ahead.
Yep. We're all old people. And I would love to do architect type work if I could do a heavy amount of pair programming.
Oh.
Yes.
So, because none of us want to sit in an isolated area office and then poop out design documents. We'd no one understands it. Just anything. Oh, do you have design?
I want to sit in a quiet office and just poop out applications and features and stuff. It's definitely what I want to do. And then by choice, engage. Sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't mind if I was sat building applications or features, etc. I'm doing that, sitting there, determining what other people are going to do, then hand it over to them for them to implement. I'm not even designing the code. I'm just saying, hey, here's what we need to do. Here's some estimations. Here you go. Run with it. And kind of defending we can't do this before this, we can't do this before this, and that sort of stuff. I'm not actually doing it. I'm not actively involved with any development. And it's not where I want to be. I want to be in a place where I wouldn't mind being pairing with people, but still designing the solutions and being in charge of the solutions. I have no issue with there are several jobs out there that are kind of like hands-on, but also responsible for that management and guidance aspect as well. So I'm the same boat.
I was going to say, speaking of the design and hands-on application experience, Fridays are good days to run through Liquid Sky if you want to show other people Liquid Sky, now that I think I have access to it.
It's silence.
I was looking over it
if you're not ready for that, that's fine.
It's
no pressure.
Liquid Sky right now is proving to one of those, we go to deliver software and it never works the way we expected. It doesn't always work the way I'm going to try and avoid the word never. But
I didn't say anything.
Rarely. How's about rarely? You can't foresee every issue, and with something like that, learning so many different technologies at the same time, or trying to learn so many different technologies, right? We can't be experts in everything, and that's a challenge. And Liquid Sky is definitely testing me on that right now. So choosing to do the deployment piece, trying to pick up the Kubernetes piece with Pulumi, that was, I actually stand by it being the right time and the right idea. But it's kicking my butt and it's frustrating me. And now I'm at the point
I actually
where
used that phrase yesterday. TDMS is kicking my butt.
Yeah.
I don't learn except by example and through someone guiding me. The layers of abstraction in Kubernetes. Dude, we have a program which runs in a container, which runs as part of a pod, which runs as part of a replica set, which runs as part of a deployment, which runs as part of a horizontal pod autoscaler, which is then owned by a scaled object, which is basically the same thing. So that's the Kubernetes side. We deploy that using YAML, resource YAML, and it actually, anyway. And then we, what am I gonna say? Resource YAML packaged into a Helm chart, which we do variable substitutions for, some of which are very necessary. And we deploy some of these things, not our code, but like our vendor code, so to speak, via Terraform, which you can call Pulumi for the rest of this exercise. And I'll just say, like, if something's wrong, it's a very sad time troubleshooting. And now I obviously just rattled that off with no issues. So I understand it now. But, like, can you imagine dealing with that? Like, I have somewhere in there, I have a config file, which is TOML. And it is stored as a Kubernetes config map in a Helm chart and deployed through Terraform. And so, like, I have to, anyway, lots of abstractions. All I'm trying to do is scare everybody. But layers,
accomplished.
Yeah.
I'm scared by the number of those words I actually understood.
Yeah, and see, like, you either know it or you don't. But if you are trying to gain the knowledge, it's I don't know. I don't even know why I'm bringing up the fact that I would rather pair, but it makes it so much better. Like, it saves me, like, I get super frustrated. Learning programming stuff is incredibly frustrating for me. I think more than most people, because I don't know. Yeah, just who I am. And so if I had to troubleshoot through all of that all at once, bootstrap all my knowledge, it would have been overwhelming, and I'd browse Twitter for 2 weeks probably. So that would be what I would do instead.
That's kind of what I was trying to, with the Pulumi piece, I realized that Liquid Sky project was at a point where it could be used. And it would be nice now to try and help let other people play with it before it gets too deep, so that I can start, like, introducing it more. And so I decided to go off and do the deployment, and I knew that it was going to be difficult because I'd chosen some pretty difficult technologies to kind of weave together. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try Pulumi because I get to learn about it. I've played with Kubernetes enough to understand it's not easy, and I didn't want to mess with Helm charts. So I figured I'd pick up the infrastructure as code, and it's kind of working. But I've got to learn things like, why won't it retain the information? Why is this image actually why is this data retained? I've got this stateful set, I've got this, I've got that. I'm, like, learning all those pieces on the fly while trying to get to a successful point where I can say, hey guys, you can now go and you can log in. And then keep up the, there's just so many different things to learn along the way. And it's difficult to share on the stream because it's not like pairing, right? It's having someone else there sat with you working on something is a good way of doing it, but that's not streaming. Streaming is having a bunch of people that may or may not be walking past your cubicle. They're not there to help you. They're there to kind of engage when they choose and not when they, when they can't. So it's been quite the journey to get through. I mean, overall, 3 weeks of actual time on stream doing Pulumi, even though it's felt like 3 months. Nice. And it's to the point where it's almost there. I'm just having an issue with getting things lined up where Kafka doesn't seem to want to restart itself. If you bring it all down, when you bring it all back up, all the storage it does retain is invalid and it breaks Kafka. Creating topics when you start up so that things are available, it breaks Kafka. So it's learning those things and understanding them is difficult. So, but I really want people to be able to, sign in when I go into the stream, be able to sign in and tinker with it and play with it. But every little feature, every feature you add adds 2 other potential features, right? So if I deploy the Kafka pieces, right, now people are like, well, where's my data? I added this, where is it? Right. Oh, well, how do I understand this? So now I've got to go and figure out logging. What is effective logging? Introduce you know, I can't just dump it in there, because that's what gets applications into trouble, when you're just dumping things in there in response to problems. And I definitely don't want to do that.
So Mojo, I enjoy the process of writing actual code. I know that in the future, like what Marcus said earlier, in the future, it's most likely just going to be having a natural language conversation about some task that you want done, and then package it up, and then people can now use that task in their everyday lives. I mean, like, automation is my biggest thing. How can we automate menial tasks so that people can enjoy life more, the things that they want to do? And for me, the thing that I want to do is write code, and I know that that's going to go away eventually, but while we have it, that's what I want to do.
Maybe it will be as big of a change as like the old punch card days, where they were basically programming assembly and COBOL, and they dealt with like two things: files and sending print jobs. That was like probably it, right? I was never there. I don't know. I've dealt with medical systems, but not the old COBOL stuff. Oh, okay. Well. Yeah. So yeah, I think they were doing so much less with so much more time. It's kind of amazing how much we can get done. Productivity is incredible, unless you're using JavaScript on the front end and upgrading React every 6 months or whatever. That's hater talk. That's hater talk. That's right.
That's hilarious.
Ojo, I saw that slander.
Whippersnapper.
Yeah.
Do not have punch card experience? Nope.
That's
I do.
up.
Wait, I do transit, or not vicariously through my dad. Yeah,
I did work on.
I
did work on the first system I did was working in BASIC, developing applications that were run through terminals. So it was all text-based stuff. That was my first job.
I will admit, I have done one file import on my Access database back in 2000 whatever, and it imported text in EBCDIC.
I don't know.
I will spell it out. EBCDIC, like as opposed to ASCII.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I've done one of those. So I do feel like I'm an old man. Like I have for work dealt with EBCDIC encoding. Oh, is it with an I in there? All right. President, yeah, bleh.
There we go.
It's whatever. If I don't remember it, that means I didn't actually know it that well.
This is what I used to write code for. When I worked at the VA in 2014.
Also,
so good old-fashioned mumps, huh?
Mumps.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, TJ, who streamed, he's a big coding streamer. He worked at Epic Systems, and he'll mention every now and then that he has done mumps work as well via Epic. I think they used, what was it, InterSystems cache, InterSystems cache. So it was kind of a modern, it wasn't like
a very
this.
hazy time for me.
Okay. Oh no, President. Oh no, you were at Meditech. I supported a Meditech. Oh no, I worked for a hospital. So we were enemies, President. I probably filed tickets against your team. Angry tickets. No, I was very it taught me how to deal with vendor support because they did a pretty good job.
He's not hearing you. He's not hearing you right now. He's like, oh my gosh, it's so loud.
Who's getting drowned? I couldn't possibly be getting drowned out. Oh, they might be cutting the tank. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you mention Meditech.
Mm.
By the way, President, not sure. The last thing I did at my hospital job, going to my going away lunch, because I had filed notice and I was gonna I was gonna start a new job doing SharePoint, which is hilarious because Meditech was probably better technology. Despite being not better, but just I have some anger issues
Oh,
in
SharePoint.
retrospect. But the last thing I did for that Meditech hospital was the radiology department had downtime because the radiology module was blocked. And this was blocked because it had what they call a poison pill, which I've learned the industry term for it. They had a poison pill in their printer queue. I don't know if I'd call it a poison pill, but it was basically their message queue processing expected out printers and print jobs to work, and if they didn't work, it would hang up. And if enough of them hung up, it would take down the entire module, so you couldn't even do basic reading and writing operations, CRUD type stuff. So in order to fix this problem, I was like, hey, can I just get a new printer from IT? I literally, as the last thing of my job, I installed a new printer in radiology and unblocked the queue, got them working again. As my boss was calling me, he's like, get over here to lunch, we're waiting for you. And I was like, this is kind of important. So anyway, it was I fixed the problem. I learned about message queues a little more, and I fixed a printer for the first time in my 2.5 years. And yeah, and thus ends the tale. Welcome, Thendo.
Hello.
Hi. Whoa. I've lost my voice. Can anyone find it for me?
I can hear it.
Yeah, it was gone for a second there. That was weird. So hi, how's it going? How are you? I think Peter just finished his story, or at least wrapped it up.
I did. Yeah, wrap it up, B. Yeah, I was rambling. It was for the.
It's all good. I mean, you were talking about the woes of SharePoint, and I can relate.
We shouldn't talk about it. By the way, you're kind of echoey. Thendo, like you're usually so good, and it sounds like you're on a laptop microphone.
All right, I am not. Oh, hold on, I have an idea.
I have a couple ideas.
Rather, I have a yes. Here we go.
That issue that I was having TBD, what was it, yesterday morning, when I was like, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
I think it is tied to the Windows update, and it's no longer seeing my RAID Strix, whatever that thing is called. It's like an external device that does eARC or just regular ARC. Anyway, so I ended up just getting another Focusrite thing and replaced it this morning, and you sounded awesome this morning. It was so good to be able to just hear normally. It was nice. Yeah, 24H2.
Is this better?
It is.
Awesome. That's on my headset.
A little quieter.
So we're not going to continue giving live coding trauma then?
Or trauma.
Trauma. Yeah.
I won't mention it. You won't mention it.
No.
I've actually, there's certain technologies I've never been near in all my years, and SharePoint is one of the things I've never touched.
Great. Me neither. Great, let's move on.
Yeah. All right, let's get past this topic already, guys.
About the dollar Bob dollar that my boss did.
I don't know what that is.
You know, staying adjacent at least to horrible things that we've experienced. As you know, what we're talking about is not easy to style, right? if you're doing old web parts.
Oh yeah, it was so terrible to see. I was like, hey, I know web forms. This is going to be easy. There's an editor for it.
Yeah. So I wrote a very simple templating language, which would, here's HTML, inject a control here, more HTML, inject control here, etc., etc., etc. Fairly simple, right? And then my boss got a hold of this over a weekend when I wasn't working. He had to do something, and he didn't understand it. So he replaced all my nice little, lookup stuff with arguments and everything in the template for $Bob and a hard-coded list of components, controls. So yeah, that's my Bob story. I was a little bit upset. Not very,
So that's
but
your. Oh,
came in and wrecked my work over a weekend because he couldn't understand what I'd done. Almost as bad as in high school when my programming teacher told me I couldn't use pointers because he didn't understand them.
that's
You're gonna
bad
have to
because
find a
they're a
creative
teacher.
solution.
Yeah.
That's very bad. I'm sorry.
Programming in
That
high school.
let's pick it. The teacher. Let's go find him. Let's go find him. And
Honestly, I mean, this is a while back, and he was a math teacher who literally was like, yeah, programming might be cool. Let me try that. So he would come in, he would read aloud from the book. Then he'd literally say, Eric will handle questions, and then he'd sit down and drink coffee for a bit. I wish I was
Smart.
wrong about that.
teacher sounds very smart. Give it to your
Yeah.
kid who actually knows what they're talking about. Like literally knows more than you. That takes humility. What a great
But he
teacher.
still had to, grade my stuff, and he didn't understand pointers. I wasn't allowed to use them.
Yep, that's rough. That's a little rough. Especially if the algorithm requires it.
Hope you passed the course then.
I may have done a little bit more than we had to do for the final project of that class. So yeah, I think I passed it. We were supposed to write one of those, guess the numbers games as a final project, which, I mean, we're talking about that level of difficulty here. So I may have written a multiplayer networked version of it. We could connect
As
someone
one
else. We
does.
could play multiple people against each other.
We're our own worst enemies when the show off comes out.
Yeah.
That's why developers should never be given the hey, how long do you think this will take? Because they're always gonna, because the show off comes out and like, oh, hey, that's easy, we can do that.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do it. We think it's easy
But we
until
completely
we start actually doing it.
Like for me, the what is it called? Time estimation is a competency challenge for me. It's like, can I accurately estimate how much time it's going to take to do this thing? It's not necessarily, can I do this thing in a short amount of time to prove that I'm doing something good? It's, can I accurately say the right amount of time?
I have an answer to that one.
The answer is no for me always.
It's no. No one can. We're just guessing.
I have. You've triggered a rant.
Yes.
Number one,
You have unlocked.
what I found fascinating is during remote work, I'll be like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom and get a drink.
Me too.
And maybe those two things are related, by the way. But I got to go to the bathroom, get a drink. I'll be back in, and then I would say a certain number of minutes. And I would be off by half. Like I would say, it'll be 2 minutes. And then like 5 minutes later, I show up like, okay, that was... So even dumb stuff like that with physical, anyway. So even estimating dumb stuff like that is impossible. You actually can't get better. So here's my other thing. I have heard advanced estimation takes, and they are basically saying that yes, estimation is impossible. But what you can do is you can try and fit a certain amount of the work into a time box. And what this means is, especially like in ops, there are always a bunch of nice to haves. But our work is even worse than dev work because it's literally all roadblocks. Like if you know what you're doing, you can type out the terraform in 5 minutes. But you don't know what you're doing. And so actually that's wrong. It's usually half an afternoon. See, there's more estimation. But the point is, like, if you can get a walking skeleton, you know, you get the basic functionality done, then iterate on it. You can keep iterating until you run out of time. And that is a good approach to estimation. Now, they still need to know how long stuff takes, but like especially when it gets to like a project level, they're like, hey, we want to know how long this rewrite project's going to take. And you're like, well, we can get a lot done in 3 months. And you basically can't commit to anything meaningful, like except a small subset of what you would actually work on. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble again. All right,
hey, you're allowed to ramble. As a comment to that, the way that I estimate is I try to break things down into maybe 5 or 6 hours or less parts, not even full days. Because above that, you can't estimate. There's too many variables, too many factors that can affect everything. I actually just got a contract, and the customer there during, Q&A on the offer before was like, yes, you've estimated 500 hours. What happens if you go over that? And I'm like, the entire point of me offering this project as a, ongoing invoicing thing is you pay for the time it takes. This is just my best guess. If you want to set the price of this, I'm going to add 20% more just as my wiggle room.
Yeah, there was definitely a conversation like that with Navarro, where the previous project that I worked on, I priced out based on the number of hours I thought I was going to spend, and they did a fixed fee contract with me for those specific fixes. And I was like, at the end of it, you will have a working project, and it will take the amount of time that I think it took. And that one, I pretty much hit right on the nose. Like for one project, it took me 20% less time to finish, and then for another, it took me 20% more time. So it all balanced out. Really it was pretty equal. I mean, like it was almost to the hour, the number of hours I thought it would take me. But
so where did this whole I can't time estimate thing come from then?
I mean, that's the only example where it has worked out to a T.
So
that was me taking too many minutes to pee. Keep going.
But yeah,
how much time did you plan for the mapping tool?
For the mapping tool for this one?
Yeah.
1 month. And here I am on month 2.5.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, of that, how much of that was work you expected but just took longer, or work that came out of the woodwork once you started to dig deeper into the actual requirements?
Hold on. I will answer you. Nerd Herder just did a collab request, and I think it may have been an accident. But if not, let me know, and I'll push accept, Nerd Herder. You'll let me know. Okay, so how much of it was work that I expected versus how much was...
So work that you kind of expected and just took you longer, or work that appeared once you started digging deeper into the the actual features?
Yeah, so the work that I expected, I estimated would have taken me 2 weeks, which was let's just make a UI where you drag and drop a file reads the file, and then you map it from that file to your destination, and that's it. You just map values. So I was really confident 2 weeks would have been good. So then I said 1 month because doubling. And then it was like, well, we also need to be able to say if the value is this, map it to this, or only take part of this field and put it into 2 different fields. And then I was like, oh, that's a little bit more complicated than expected. So, yeah. So I guess 10% expected work, 90% unexpected work.
Yeah, it's so
Because
I've been
didn't
asked
get the
to estimate.
requirements, I guess.
I'm being asked to estimate time estimations, like in weeks, not anything less, based upon my experience with the system. And those time estimations then get reviewed by other people who don't work in the code, and then get handed down to developers. And the developers are like, well, we need to know what you're expecting because the time estimations are off. But you know, it's how long is a piece of string. The more you know, the more accurate it can be. But you often end up taking a lot of time to know more, and it's why I kind of focus on the reproducibility of not the reproducibility, the standards and practices, because the more code you jam in there to fix problems, which is what I'm trying to avoid now, right? I'm trying to avoid jamming a load of stuff in there to try and fix problems without stepping back and thinking about, is this the right thing to do? Which you don't often have time to do in a business application, right? We often lose control of that, which means the time estimates actually get worse over time. Because the more code there exists,
The more you have to maintain.
the more you have to maintain,
more...
and the more people that are involved in it, the less knowledge there is there over all the features, which means time estimates get harder, not easy to give.
Yeah, the more dependencies your code has, even on itself, the more things can go wrong during development, right? Building in a vacuum isn't terribly difficult if you know what you're doing, but once you have this big application that depends on everything else working and depends on that working the exact way that you expect it to, and suddenly you get some kind of cascading effect and nothing works.
Agreed.
Then again, our job is not to smash keyboards, it's to solve problems, right?
Speak for yourself.
I mean, true. I don't really smash my keyboard as much as roll my face across it most of the time.
Kind of random. Have you seen that GIF from 3,000 years ago with the black and white character typing away on the keyboard and gets more and more frustrated, and he ends up with
bleeding out,
grinding down his arms and then smashing it with his face until it's a bit gruesome.
That's old internet. Yeah.
Also accurate.
Old internet. Oh, did I ever show the shirt that I finally found?
Pre-meme times memes.
We could be watching the coding. There's a button tag, y'all. There's two of them.
Button tag? What?
Honestly, I didn't even look at the screen. I have not been looking, Umberto, I've been not looking at your screen.
Well, that's good.
This entire time. So you could have been writing slander against me. I would not have known. Anyway. So there you go.
I mean, like, I'm at a point where I'm just trying to figure out how to present to a user that some fields are missing. That need to be populated.
Oh, validation.
Yes,
stuff.
for validation.
Right.
And okay, how's that? Have any of you ever worked with, I know TBD doesn't really like data annotations. Have any of you worked with data annotations and hooking them up to a model binder, a model validator without Fluent validation, just like the built-in Microsoft.
My answer is no, but I also know it's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. My answer is I know less than Tyndall, but I also know it's doable.
Yeah.
How about that?
Because I mean, how else are they binding models to controller actions when you do a request? There's got to be a way for us to be able to bind it. I was thinking of just using a data annotation validator. Data annotations validator.
Why? Is that a real thing?
Yes. It's a
Okay.
Blazor component that you can put inside of an edit context, which means that I'll have to set up an edit context and figure out how all that works. Or, because like the main thing is for users of this library, this is going to be the open source library. I don't want dependencies on a bunch of other NuGet packages, other libraries.
Yeah.
I want it all to be Microsoft stuff or my own homebrewed, with the exception of Excel data reader, because I'm not writing a Excel data reader. To when they specify the target type, instead of needing to provide a whole bunch of configuration parameters to the component for the target type, they just put data annotations and then they would show up on here. So like, here's the required data annotation, the required attribute. It shows a star here because I said look for that attribute using reflection. But when they hit submit, it'd be nice if the output would have data validation on each of the output records.
So I have an idea here.
Oh.
Components.
And that with edit form,
Reusable
yeah.
components.
Madness. Absolute madness.
Yeah.
By the way, Nerd Herder wrote in chat, I've done that.
With edit form. Yep. And that's what I mean. Like, edit form is a new-ish component that came out with Blazor. So there must be a way to connect some kind of validator to your model. So my model in this case is this rtrack upload model. And the only things that I care about right now are string length. And these are the things that I can think of that I need. String length, because for whatever reason, my database has specific Unicode character length, not Unicode, whatever, for certain fields. And so if a value from a mapping violates that string length constraint, I want to be able to show it. Not only here, but in here, because I have access to all of the values for a given field. So I need some way to display, hey, for this mapping, you have at least one value that is violating the string length.
Flippy.
Seems inefficient. That seems not inefficient, but like, do you know the size of the data sets?
I wouldn't, because again, this is generic enough for any developer to be able to, or yeah, I guess any developer to be able to add to their own application. So it's up to
So
their
that
system.
might get slow if you need to parse all the rows of the entire data set
What happened to
and
my
validation
results?
of them.
It's actually pretty fast.
Yeah, I
Unless
mean,
you have a million rows.
but who has a million rows? Just put the limit. Like, hey,
Yeah,
I do.
so think, well, one, a million rows is not possible because you're using, well, I don't know, can a CSV be a million rows?
Yeah,
An
Yeah,
Excel
absolutely.
worksheet can't be.
it can now. The new one,
Yeah.
2
really?
billion rows.
Oh,
XLSX, I think, upped it. It used to be 32,000, right?
65536.
Okay, one of them. No Excel. Mojo says banning the topic. Fair enough. Mojo.
I used to run a anonymous email service.
Sure, if you look for source. Oh yeah.
Because I thought it was fun. I managed to grab the domain Stora Stiga Internet, which means big bad internet. So if you want to stay anonymous, you could just create a mailbox there, and they I may have saved all of the emails that came in just in case something came up. You know, I don't want bad things to go over the service, even if it's anonymous. I think I was up to 25 million emails or something after a year.
Nice.
So, you know, people signing up at places that will send them tons of spam, but they want the first email. So, yeah.
The sign up email, yeah.
And if I want to run that through this, how good would that be if it wants to validate?
Probably not very good.
Can't you allow people to do it and then you show it per row, like this does not match the requirements? Or
Well, okay, so the thing that I'm doing is I'm providing a reference to the list of values for each column. So each column becomes a column with a list of values. And, or I guess in, anyway, in some, I think it's an array, in a way that makes it to where each value corresponds to the row that it's for. I'm going to be adding an ID, a unique identifier for each row, so that I can just use that instead of relying on the index. Point is, every single mappable field, so everything that shows up on the left side here, keeps a copy, or no, I'm sorry. Everything that shows up here, source fields, keeps a copy of the values for that field. And so when I'm mapping, it really is just using, why is there only one in here of distinct values? Say again?
Anal meth no is not a good.
Yeah. You're going to see that a lot.
Oh, no,
It'll come up a
more of
lot.
that.
Yeah. It's happened forever.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. But let's look at anal meth now, because that should have multiple values. Okay, so this does pull out only distinct values for that column, and that's what it stores. I forgot about that. So when you're configuring this particular field mapping, that's when it should give you the validation that for one of those specific records in this list of previewed results, unique distinct values, this one and this one and this one have violated the issue. Yeah, Nerd Herder's been here since the beginning, so he's already been through all of that.
So when you do that preview, are you actually pulling every single value and just giving like a few of them?
No, well, yes, every single distinct value.
Right. Every time you click on one of them, you're doing that.
Up front. So yeah, so like as soon as you load the file, that's when it parses out, here's a column and here's all of the distinct values for that column.
And so memory if someone uploads a big file there, right?
Yeah, if it's a massive file, it won't work very well. We'll definitely have to have that in consideration. But right now I'm just making it to my use case so I can give it to the users. And then we're going to improve the open source version to handle large files and probably do a max number of samples.
But you can't do a max number if they're going to violate the data, right? You've always got to pull everything. You've always got to pass the entire data set to understand if anything violates the rules.
Yes.
But don't look at it when you switch in the drop-down. Have a validate button that will either do it, that will do a manual validate while you're in the settings, or validate them on save.
Right. Or just get through this. I'm surprised you're doing a builder in general. Like, I would have programmed this manually. Just how many data uploads y'all got, and then like, man, they're gonna have to fit their data to this format going forward. I just want to say this is kudos in getting this done, because I would have ran out of patience a long time ago. And
like, it's done, it works as long as they provide valid data. So now the only step left is to validate the data so that they don't try to put a 4-digit or 4-character lab code in.
You can always trust what users give us. Why didn't it's always going to be perfect, right?
It's a lab that says, here's what we're giving to you as a response to your analysis request. And we don't really get to say, well, we need these specific fields in this order. They're like, our system spits this out. This is what you get.
All right, I have a quick thing to say. Number one, I need to leave the call. But number two, I'm going to give my stand-up. So I would need y'all to read chat, but don't read it aloud. So here is my stand-up, which I am claiming for myself. My stand-up is I did some research, and I think you might want to use the edit context object for the edit form.
I think so.
To allow for more complex validation scenarios. That's me. I did that.
That's you.
With that said, no blockers.
Bam. Nice. Yes, I mean, I agree with that. As far as the preview output is concerned, that works. But the thing that I really care about, see, it's taking this long just to apply the transformations to show the preview. When I'm in this field and I push the map fields button, that's where I want it to do validation here, where we don't see
and
the preview
I think that's
values.
fine. I mean, if it's not valid, then you don't allow them to map the fields that way, so you stay where you are.
Right.
And if it's okay, you close it, and while it's checking it, you show a spinner.
Yeah.
I think that's an all right user interface.
I'm just trying to figure out.
You need to
how
show that you're working, though.
an easy way to do the validation. So I definitely know how to show I'm working. All of the apps have spinners, and I'm doing stuff. Watch me search. So I click this, hit search. This turns into a cancel. Here's my spinner.
Ooh, fancy.
It is actually cancelable.
Ooh, also fancy. Will it cancel? Is this WASM or server?
Wasm.
Will it cancel the server operation as well?
It would have, yes. It's the same method, same backend method. Yay.
Do any of you know how to do streaming HTML or actually
Yes.
streaming data over an HTTP client?
Yes.
We get like one row at a time from an API endpoint.
Yes. You need HTTP2.
All right. Can I use a normal HTTP client for that?
You can. So like, this is another thing that this is one of the most recent things when Nerd Herder was chatting in chat that we were talking about, which would have been 2 years ago, something, a year and a half ago, 3 years ago, before I started working at the other place. And that was that I did want streaming, async streaming content. I think whatever it's called, async streaming content. And we found out that in Blazor Wasm, you can't set that up because it's not using HTTP2.
All right.
But we did get it to work. He even had an example of having it working. And we spent at least a month just trying different things, getting it to work. But that was a long time
It is
ago.
doable in WASM, but not easily, is what you're saying.
Not that I can remember it being
Or
easily.
not obvious, at least.
May have been updated with the recent .NET versions. I don't know.
The most important part is that it's not impossible, at least.
I think you might want to use the edit context. Crazy, we had the same thought. Canhorn says to Peter. But yeah, so that's the UI part of it is easy. I'm working, I'm doing stuff, but the part that I'm really wanting to make easier as far as the open source library's logic is allowing developers to provide data annotations that control the validation on the things. I like the idea of using edit form. That's going to work inside of here. So each of these rows would be an edit form, and then the value in it would be the validated value. I guess the output values would be the ones validated in the edit form using data annotations validator. But what do we do to validate it programmatically in this view where we don't have the values being output.
Yeah.
There's only one lab. Here, these should be pretty distinct. There's quite a few of these. There we go. And never mind this, because again, not really worried about the UI at the moment.
You got it fixed at least.
Yeah.
When you scroll past the header.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah.
I mean, it's not terrible. It's not done, but it's not terrible. Those, you know, it's a 3 Röntgen UI.
A 3 Röntgen? A what?
Yeah, if you've seen Chernobyl, the HBO show.
I haven't.
When they used the first radiation, it's called Geiger counters, right?
Yes. Okay.
And they measure, and it was like, yes, it's 3 Röntgen, not great, not terrible. Only the detectors kind of capped out at 3.
Great. Helpful.
Turns out it was 20,000, which is definitely on the terrible side.
Ooh, you even brought it up. So Nerd Herder provided his repo where he was exploring this with us, and it was 3 years ago.
Awesome.
So you have
I will borrow that and save that.
And I believe if you look in server controllers weather forecast, this is where it is using the iasync enumerable of weather forecast, and it's yield returning. You may notice that when you're running this, when you're running this, I think that's what it was. If you're running this in Kestrel, it works fine, but if you're running it in IIS, it doesn't work at all.
All right,
It
so
just
if you're
goes
deploying to
waiting.
Linux or through a Docker, it should work.
It was a long time ago. I think that was the issue. All of my apps are hosted on IIS, and they can, now that most of them are .NET Core, they can be run as just standalone applications on Kestrel. Man, long time ago.
And then you have content read as stream async, and then a deserialize async enumerable that reads that stream instead of a full buffer. Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you, Nerd Herder.
He's
Much
the best.
appreciated. You just herded me in a great direction.
So yes, so that's what I'm doing today. Well, actually, no. After the stream today, I'm gonna try to get as much of this done within the hour that's left, and then I need to go back to working with a new employee. I love having a GIS person.
New employee?
Yeah.
Or employer?
New employee at RMA.
All right.
They're GIS specialists. They'll be updating the map, changing over the way that we do the map stuff. It shouldn't be local file anymore, or eventually something. Whatever his goal is, I'm here to support him.
I felt really dumb at my second to last customer because they kept talking about GIS, and I was like, this doesn't fit. What you're saying doesn't fit with GIS. Turns out their IT department is called Global IT Services. And I'm like, you don't steal
That's kids.
TLA. Took me like a week to go like, oh, I'm not an idiot. They just named their IT department in a really bad way.
I don't know what EJ data is, Mojo, but we do work with EPA methods. So they're the ones that tell the lab how to test a simple for a specific environmental justice. Most likely, yes. There was a recent, or I guess recent, again, 3 to 5 years ago, there was this big thing that was brought up against RMA again for something that happened in 1970 or 1980, and it was crazy. It was super crazy. And so DDMS was very helpful because they were able to search for documents using context-sensitive queries.
Yay. It's always nice when your application actually helps, right?
Yeah.
I am so tired of writing LOB applications.
I love...
But I mean,
It's my
just
favorite.
simple data entry. I say simple data entry and you're complicated here. And like, simple CRUD. Let's just take this data
That's
and put it in a
probably why I
database
like it.
and
It's
do
just...
nothing with it.
Sometimes it's like, I don't know, it's probably the way that some people enjoy fishing. Where it's just a thing that you can do in a relaxed way. Write a CRUD application.
Then again, with Copilot, this is where Copilot really shines.
Well,
you start writing the first one towards your model, and then you just tab, and it adds all of the ones with the layout based on your first one for all the fields. And then you just go back and adjust it's called input field types, and maybe if something is supposed to be shorter and stuff like that. But if you have 30 fields, you can get the basics done in less than 5 minutes.
Speaking of Copilot, says Nerdherder, and Marcus was like, if it wasn't for Blazor, we wouldn't have any idea what the random weather was. You forgot random in there.
True. True.
5 years and counting. I think it's here to stay. TVD responded to him saying, unless the wind changes, then we get another framework to work with. I don't think the wind needs to change for that, TVD. It happens way too often.
I was having some fun with the weather and Blazor there, but there's always a new framework on the horizon, right? There's always something shiny and new coming along. It might be sticking around for a while, but Microsoft haven't really. It's not like they've outright made Blazor the only way of doing things.
Right, yeah. I mean, they still support ASP.NET Pages, Razor Pages, and now Minimal API.
Web Forms is still under support. It's just not being actively developed.
Yeah.
I think we've got 2 or 3 more years before it goes out of support. So until then, they will fix, severe crashes. They'll make sure that new versions of Windows and iOS will keep being able to run it, and yeah. So they used to be really insanely good at support for old things. Sorry, TBD, go.
Very good. Oh, I'll say we keep inventing new ways of doing things, and the old things stick out there because we've built things on them. Where really, Liquid Sky is my kind of play with the shiny stuff. But if I was building applications today, coming back around on what I said before about being stuck in my ways or being old, is just, I think I would say use the tools you have for certain. But if you're going to take on new technology dependencies, make sure that you're not taking them on a whim and getting swept along with the wave of energy that comes with the hype that comes with an initial release of a new framework, a new library, because you build in those natural dependencies on other people coming along and having the same understanding. If a library doesn't go as far as it should have done, or it gets it doesn't get quite the support or the wave to follow it, then it just sits there, and you end up having to support that, and as other developers come on and the way things change, the code changes, etc. So it's more like we're gonna keep getting frameworks, but use some
We all
Practice
know
restraint
Rust
before the
is
stick
the
on.
end. No one will ever beat Rust.
Yeah. Well,
So just
until
to read out-
next time.
Yeah. until Rust-ish. Just to read this out, Nerdherder said, I wanted to add the ability to return a fairly complex web page from an Azure function, and I asked Copilot to build a method to output a string of HTML based on a model, and it friggin' nailed it. And I asked it to make changes, and it was really friggin' good at it, even added JavaScript for functionality, etc. That's crazy. And like one of the issues that I had with DDMS, just to go back to this because I like talking about how incompetent I can be sometimes, was when I add my DB context, I mentioned that I need to use the compatibility switch or whatever this is called, option setting, because it tries to use OpenJSON and our SQL Server doesn't support OpenJSON or SQL Server version. So I had this line in here and it had red squiggly under it. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? So I checked the dependencies of this project, made sure that it had the right version of EF Core. And I'm like, maybe it's just a class library, can't use it. So maybe it's the SDK type. So I tried changing it to web, which I need to change it back to not web, by the way. And it still just wouldn't get rid of my compile error. And even when I tried to build, it was a compile error. And I asked Copilot, I was like, why is this showing me a compile error? And it's like, one thing you could try is to do a clean and rebuild. And then it went on to like 4 other things. And I'm like, clean and rebuild. That's why wouldn't I think of just clean and rebuild? And then of course it worked.
I've just poked a source generator. The amount of clean and rebuilds and restarts of Studio because caching.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. And I keep trying to update all of my NuGet packages to match my .NET version. And if I try to do that with the source generator for this project, it's like you can no longer use the single source generator thing. You have to use the you know the word I'm looking for, right? The one that means the previous one builds on the next one. You can make snapshots like this. I forget what the word is. Anyway, you can't use iSource generator. You have to use iConcurrent source generator. I
think it's iValue source generator.
Oh,
Let me have a look.
I'm just gonna upgrade the value.
Incremental generator.
Incremental. That's
what
the
they
word.
want us to use.
That's the word. But yeah, especially if you change a package. Marcus Voice Coder said, I think that because the large language models are trained on lots of different types of data, they're very good at converting it from one to the other. I agree. I agree. I'm going to be banned from Liquid Sky for this. For what? Deploy Liquid Sky via PunchCon. I'll let you two duke it out. Actually, that would be quality entertainment. Mojo, what? Oh, Mojo doesn't have a voice right now.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Ed Charbonneau was doing some testing with WebLLM. Have you ever seen that?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked into it.
It is both insanely cool and also really terrible at what it does unless you have a huge model. So his example dumped a 3.5 gig model into, the browser. And it worked, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, a 3.5 gig model isn't that great either.
I think where it would shine is if you're doing it in Blazor Hybrid, where you can deploy the model along with the installation of the app. Don't think WebLLM will take off for normal web pages because of the massive download size of the models. unfortunately, because it is cool.
What am I using? What's the name of the project? WebGen UI? XGen Web UI. What size are your models? So the model that we're using for automated realms is one of these. It looks like the smallest one I have regardless is a 6 gig model. And those are Llama 2 models. Here it is. Oh, it's only 4. It was lower. Wow. Wow.
How big?
4 gigs only.
And that's tiny.
It's a 7 billion parameter
For a
model
model.
too. Yeah.
But you like to download that amount of data when you visit the web page.
Downloading 35 gigs on my mobile connection to run WebOL. Yes. Trying my best not to get caught by these things. I clean, close, delete. Yeah. I really should have done that first. It was so thoughtless of me. I'm handicapped right now. Not a fair fight. Oh, I forgot, says Mojo. I want to start my self-hosting LLM journey soon. It's in my opinion, the easiest way to get started is to look at Ollama. Just go to the website, look at Ollama. They tell you how to download it, run it through command line. It'll have you download a model, and you have an API endpoint exposed on your local machine or wherever you installed it.
And if you just want a local on your workstation one, there's a really good Windows application that will handle all the model downloading and connecting and whatever
There's
for
a
you.
few.
So you can just download it, and then you have image generation and text
There's
built in.
GPT
I
for
can't remember
all.
the name.
I think that one also does image gen. Auto GPT, which has RAG built in, private GPT. Lowwise AI. I don't remember if that one is just a image gen / video gen.
I can't remember the name.
Azure AI Studio, I think, is downloadable.
Yeah, but doesn't that run on the cloud? And you
you
use
can
that
configure it
build
to.
Oh.
You can configure it to use local LLM. So you get your Ollama API endpoint, and then you point the AI Studio to it. That's honestly the exact amount of information I needed. Now that ChatGPT automatically remembers things about you that you can later remove and edit, it's quite good at knowing that I am coding by voice and answer specific questions with that in mind, says Marcus Voice Coder. That's awesome. I think the context window has gone up to like 60-some thousand tokens, or even further. What is the context window on ChatGPT? Where are we at? Oro? Is that the latest? $128.
Misty was the one I was talking about. MSTY.
Claude's projects.
Second one.
Yeah, there's so many of these. They have a pretty similar UI, and the ones that I like are the ones that help you create agents for very specific tasks, and then you create teams from those agents, and one of them is pretty much the orchestrator for all of the agents, and they all respond back to the orchestrator. The orchestrator sends the message to the next agent that is involved. So let's say it's a cooking thing. One agent is responsible for knowing what's in the fridge, knowing the ingredients. Another agent is responsible for knowing how to cut things. Something. I'm not good at coming up with concrete examples. This looks easy to use as well.
I think one of the good things with this one is they have like a store. I think everything's free, but you can just go in and click, I want this model.
Something else to keep in mind is if you're looking for an easy way to download and install tools like that in one place, and this is not an advert, even though it sounded just like one, Pinocchio has been awesome for me. I use it all the time.
Hey, we're talking about tooling that we like and use, so sounding like an ad for something you like, it's fine.
There's one called NoDocs. It runs on AI.
What's that?
What did Dukabot have for your command? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
Because I like Dukasoft's description of your thing better. I can't remember what he put for you.
I have
Did
a
we actually do a
hungry
proper
quick
shout out
here.
for you yet? But yeah,
Looking at you with very big eyes. Give me food, please.
Yes. Pinocchio, what you do is you install Pinocchio, and it's pretty much a one-click installer or script installer, essentially, for your popular things like diffusion. I can't remember what the name of the local LLM things are called that we just talked about, but it would most likely have those in there. Let's actually search for Misty. Can you search?
I mean, Misty is just a UI, right?
But I mean, this does install just UI, like Tavern.
Oh.
Silly Tavern, that's just a UI. That's not the LLM itself.
All right. Does any of these support both a UI and like a web tunnel or like an API?
Yeah. So TextGen Web UI, that's what Automated Realms is running on. The models are loaded.
Yeah.
Within this.
Is that running like a Docker image or something?
Okay. Yeah. And the other thing that this does is because I'm running the web application with the Dash API, it's also available via API, which is how Automated Realms can hear you in chat and respond. Maybe respond. This is the first message.
Yeah, I need to have a look at that. The issue is that my server doesn't have a GPU. And I tried running an LLM without a GPU, and it was not a nice experience.
It's terrible. There are some models, some highly quantized models that you can use with CPU fairly efficiently, but you definitely need to know how to configure it so that it's not taxing it too much.
Do something. Can't help you. Do nothing. Sure.
All right, I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't know how to do something, but it'll do nothing just fine.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh dear. Okay. We're getting close to time, so those of you in chat that feel like participating, please feel free to write in your stand-up, and I'll do my best to remember to read them this time. But for those of you on the call still, Thindle and TBD, are you guys up for doing a stand-up?
Sure.
All right, go ahead and start.
I'm going to drive to Stockholm for one of those Christmas dinner things, and then I'll also visit the .NET compound while I'm there.
Sorry, I'm reading your message to Automated Realms. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, you distracted me. So you're gonna fly to Stockholm for a Christmas dinner thingy, and stuff
Yeah.
yourself.
And then visit the .NET compound while I'm there, aka Coding Afterworks freaking mansion.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just say hi.
Any blockers?
My car running out of electricity, I guess, could be a blocker. But I think it'll be fine.
Still driving a Polestar 2?
Yes.
Awesome.
But only for another year, and then I'm looking at what I should replace it with. Because it's on lease, so
All right then.
I think I'll get something a little bit cheaper next time.
Very cool.
Go down 10 or 20k.
Yeah. It's funny. Anyway, I'll get to that. So this is a real stand-up. Now we're starting to talk about cars and electric
Yeah, sorry.
cars. And TBD's
Sorry, I
like,
went-
are we going to do stand-up or are we going to talk about cars? Anyway, TBD.
Some progress on Liquid Sky this week with getting to the testable state. Just trying to get over that hump with Kafka. So I suppose my blockers are Kafka in deployment. So, but no one can really help with that. It's just a case of getting through it. But hopefully, going into next week, I can get over that hump and start allowing people to test Liquid Sky and fix the Discord issue with the help.
Oh
from
yeah, I
Mojo.
saw. I actually just saw.
Yes. Yep.
Do you think that pairing with anyone could help you resolve it faster? I know you said no one can really help you, but
a little bit of rubber ducking possibly,
Okay.
but yeah, maybe.
all right, we'll stay after the call and we'll arrange. I'm kidding. You don't have to stay after the call.
I'm going to jump out because I just realized I'm missing something.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here,
Very
Tyndall.
important, but important-ish. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a great one.
You
Bye.
as well.
Okay, then. Have a great weekend.
All right. And do you have any other things that you want to say, TBD? Any last words?
Nope.
gotta
Other
stream.
than check back next week, I will get Liquid Sky up and running, and we'll see. And once we get to testing it, we'll see what happens next.
There
That's
it
me.
is. All right. Well,
So,
thank you so much for being
thank
here,
you all.
Doug. TBD.
Nope,
You're
thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. A great stream as always. Take care.
Out.
Have a good one.
Okay, so I am going to continue reading through chat, although we didn't really have any other, what are these called? Stand-ups. Liquid Sky, isn't that just the sea? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Have you ever seen, Lion? No, not Lion. The other movie with Dev, where he goes on a journey. His name is Piscine. Can't think of the name of the movie. Great movie though. I'm rubber, you're glue. Anything you say bounces off me and sticks to you. So yeah, I'm not really seeing any other stand-ups in chat. That's what's happening. I can hear myself here. Why? Like I thought it was coming through Thindle's stream or something. But it's actually me hearing myself through somewhere. Hopefully you guys can't hear double me. Well, you're in for a treat or something. Says Nerd Herder. But yeah, so for me, my stand-up is that I am working on getting validation on the user-defined model when they're using the data import utility, so that the library will just have validation out of the box if you want it to. If you push the map button and there are validation breaking rules defined, mapping rules defined, then it shouldn't continue and allow the map. It should instead indicate, although now that I'm thinking about it, it should probably still allow the user to continue and save, but it shouldn't allow the upload to happen. Or whatever. It should just like report back and allow that that's what it is. It should report back to the developer. There are validation issues. How do you want to handle this? Because for my use case, I can see allowing validation issues. Let's say you are for whatever reason, working on a Friday afternoon, and you're creating this mapping, and you get called up into a meeting, and then by the time you're back from the meeting, it's the end of your workday, and you're like, I don't want to finish this, but I don't want to lose the progress that I've done. So you click the map fields, and it says there are some validations, and you're like, I don't care. Save my template so that I can work on it later. That's crazy. Who would work on a Friday afternoon? Definitely not Navarro. The majority of the people at Navarro still take Fridays off. They work 410s typically. So yeah. But anyway, I'm so glad to be back with them. I'm having a blast working on these apps. I just get so down on myself for not doing it as fast as I think I should be. Anyway, so my blockers currently are, actually they were resolved during the stream thanks to Nerd Herder and President Not Sure, recommending just go ahead and use edit context and then put the data annotations validator in there. I still do want to know how to programmatically do it for this screen so that when I push map fields here, it'll check all of the values for each of the source fields to destination. But for the preview view, both in here and in the rule configuration, makes sense. It'll be easy. Are you full-time with them? I am contracted with them, and yeah, it's amazing. So maybe you're asking because I said that there was a possibility they would W-2 me, but they ended up 1099ing me. I said anything can be a verb. So I'm on a 1099 with them, and that just started at the beginning of this month for the next year, which is awesome as well. So really, really excited. I didn't go to S-Corps yet. I know that was a recommendation you had. I really need to consider it because taxes are insane. Yeah, so they scheduled it, or they contracted it for an additional 1,880 hours to my existing contract, which puts me at 2080-ish essentially for the next year. So pretty much full-time in FTE. Yeah, it's awesome. Oh, and it's also great to be able to pick my hours, take a random day off, work extra hours on another day, and then choose not to work on it. It's so nice. It's so cool. I love it. I love freedom in that sense. And I love the type of work. I've always loved this type of work. But you may recall that I just didn't like the situation I was in. And now that situation is no longer a thing, and I get to do the type of work that I love. I recommend this for everyone. Anyway, that's enough of me going on about that. I will be back again on Monday. As I mentioned, I won't do end the stream, start the workday stream, because I do need to work with the new employee, the new GIS employee. With those hours, definitely consider the S-Corps thing. Yeah, definitely. It's it was a lot of estimated taxes this year, and I assume it would be lower next year, or if I was an S-Corps, because my salary would be separate from the work income, separate tax brackets, and yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, thank you all. Thank you so very much. We are definitely heading over to Big Gamey. Thank you, Dukasoft, for doing that shout out. We are raiding over to an amazing, wonderful human being named Bit Gamey. I'm going to be lurking on his stream, on Nerkmind, on CannyDev. Sorcery Story just ended her stream, so I'm replacing hers with Will the Fool Learn. In case any of you want somewhere to go as well. But that's it for the weekend. Monday we'll be back. Hopefully I will have made progress on the validation, and you'll see the efforts being done towards that. And it seems like we'll be heading into the last week of working on the specific lab data import implementation of the data import library. Once we get that done, as I mentioned in the past, we will create the separate reusable library for all of the auth stuff for RMA using the .NET 8 and above Blazor web app template. We'll do some app conversions from .NET 5 or 6 or whatever they happen to be to .NET 8. We also can look forward to converting a .NET Framework MVC application to Blazor, .NET 9. Everything's going to .NET 9 eventually, and then keep going from there. Okay, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. I don't know if we have time for it, but big shout out to Dukasoft, who has, if you haven't heard, started streaming again. He streamed a little bit before. He's streaming again now. He does drone footage, good conversation, good times. Okay, that's it. Ciao. Didn't even get to turn my camera off.